Hello, and welcome to the tutorial on the LunaRecycle Phase 2 Milestone Round Prototype Submission Template. I'm Elisa Ferguson, and I work with NASA on the design and operation of this challenge. We're grateful for your interest in this challenge, and we look forward to seeing your solutions. Next slide. In LunaRecycle Phase 2, all teams are required to submit a prototype solution. In the milestone round for your prototype, you must submit 3 items: a completed prototype solution template, a link to a publicly available video showing your progress in developing your prototype, and a preliminary demonstration proposal. You'll submit these items at the submission platform, lunarecycle.competitionsciences.org. In this tutorial, we'll walk through the prototype submission template. You can find this template on the resources page of the challenge website and on the Resources and Files tab of the submission platform. Finally, you can also find our other submission tutorial videos on the challenge website. Now let's switch over to the template. So we'll start with the instructions for the template. First, in the general instructions, we note the other items required for submission, and note that in order for your submission template to be complete, you must address all of the sections and questions. Any submission that does not address all of the questions will receive a fail score for completeness and will not be eligible for a prize. Under the submission document instructions, please note that all submissions must be in English. The submission template must be uploaded as a PDF file and include no more than 25 pages, and that the dimensions of a page and recommended fonts are also listed here. Finally, in the template, we've provided recommended page limits for each section, but these are intended to be guidelines, not requirements. Teams may allocate space to different sections as they see fit, as long as they stay within the overall 25-page limit. It's also okay for teams to delete this instruction page from their submission so it doesn't count toward the page limit. Now we'll move into the template. At the top of the submission, please include a name or title for your solution. The first section of questions is about vision and innovation. In part 1.1, you should first provide an overview of your vision for the solution. Then in parts 1.2, 1.3, and 1.4, describe the specific innovative approaches and technologies that you're incorporating into your solution. In part 1.5, describe how you see the commercial potential of your solution, whether in a space environment, on Earth, or both. Finally, part 1.6 asks about long-term maintenance of your solution after it's deployed. The next section, Section 2, covers all the major aspects of your preliminary design. If you participated in Phase 1, you'll see that we're looking for a more advanced and more detailed design in Phase 2. Generally, your information and analysis should reflect at least the type of information that you would prepare for an engineering preliminary design review. In parts 2.1 and 2.2, it will be important for you to show the judges that your design meets the challenge requirements and that it will be feasible to implement if your team is invited to compete in the final round. In these sections, we want to understand the rationale for your design approach, and we expect that you will have conducted analysis that will help predict the performance of your solution, which you should describe here. Likewise, we want to understand your concept of operations and what analysis or testing you've done already or will do going forward to refine your solution and how it will operate. For part 2.2.2, you should complete the recycling summary table provided below, where you will summarize the information about your recycling system, inputs, outputs, and other data. I'll review that table in a moment. In part 2.2.3, we're asking for your plan for characterizing the usable outputs of your solution, which can be feedstocks or finished end products. The challenge rules do not limit the types of outputs, and it is the responsibility of teams to define them and explain how you'll verify that characterization. For example, let's say one of your outputs is a plastic filament that can be used for 3D printing. We want you to explain how you would characterize this material, for example, as PLA, and what procedures or data you would use to verify that it is in fact PLA. Now we'll move down and look at the recycling summary table, which addresses a number of key technical questions related to your recycling process. First, you'll list the eligible trash item or items from Table 4 of the challenge rules that your solution will recycle. Then you will estimate the total mass of one batch of trash. Please be sure that you read and understand the minimum batch requirements explained in the challenge rules. Then you'll provide the mass of each eligible trash item in the batch. A batch may contain one item or multiple items, and requirements related to the composition of batches is explained in the minimum batch requirements section of the challenge rules. Next, we want to know the length of time it will take to complete one cycle of the recycling process, as well as estimates for various inputs that you'll need, including electricity, water, and other inputs. All of these estimates should be for one cycle of your process. Next, we want to know the number of crew and time per crew member required to operate one cycle of your process. And then we want to understand the types and amounts of usable outputs and any unusable outputs from one cycle of your process. Finally, we're asking you to calculate two metrics that are important for the challenge. The first is mass efficiency, which is equal to the mass of usable outputs divided by the mass of inputs, including trash items and other inputs, but excluding energy consumed. Please note also that if you're using simulated regolith in your solution, you may exclude the mass of that regolith in this calculation. The second metric we want you to calculate is the energy efficiency of one cycle, which is equal to the mass of usable outputs divided by the energy consumed to produce them. Now that we've completed the recycling summary table, we'll move on to the next part. In part 2.3, you should provide schematics for key elements of your solution, including process design, mechanical and fluid schematics, electrical schematics, and assembly level drawings showing envelopes and key dimensions. One of the reasons that we expanded the number of pages allowed in the Phase 2 submission compared to Phase 1 is to allow space for these drawings. In Part 2.4, we're asking for a master equipment list, including for each item a description of the equipment and supplier, the estimated mass, the estimated volume. You can use the table provided here to organize your master equipment list. The last part in this section, Part 2.5, asks for a preliminary safety analysis of your solution. I want to note that although this is a relatively short section, safety is a fundamental issue for NASA, and teams should provide a detailed, complete, and thoughtful response about safety with regard to both equipment and personnel. Teams that are invited to compete in the final round will be expected to conduct a more robust safety analysis prior to the demonstration. But for now, teams should identify any known safety concerns and mitigations, including any hazardous materials related to your process and the safety of any pressure vessel systems, if that's relevant to your solution. Section 3 of the template is focused on your development plan, which should outline how you plan to further develop and ultimately build your solution if you're invited to compete and demonstrate in the final round. This should include the technical steps, success criteria, as well as how you'll address the necessary personnel, facilities, and other resources that you'll need. Your development plan should be a detailed project plan that shows the judges how you intend to make your solution a reality. In Section 4, you should identify any known risks with development of your design and some strategies for mitigating risks. Of course, you'll want to identify technical risks, but you should also think about organizational or business risks and budgetary risks, basically anything that could derail your progress and timeline. No project is free from risk, and understanding and planning for how things could go off track is an important part of your development plan. The judges will be looking at how well you understand the potential risks and your plans for addressing them, as opposed to just how many or how few risks you identify. Finally, Section 5 provides a budget table for you to estimate your costs to further develop and build your solution. As noted in the template, NASA is not focused on comparing the overall cost of solutions in this challenge. Rather, this section is intended to assess how well teams have thought through the budget necessary to develop and build their solution, if they're invited to compete in the final round. Below this paragraph is the budget table that you can use as part of your submission. So that's the end of the template, and now we'll return to the slides for some final reminders. Before we leave you, here are a few important reminders. If you haven't already, please be sure to complete your registration at the Institute of Competition Sciences platform. Just because you've created your team on the platform doesn't mean that you're fully registered. All teams must also complete and sign a team agreement and upload their proof of citizenship and proof of insurance or financial responsibility. You can see the challenge rules for more information about these items, and you can review the rules and all the submission templates at the challenge website, lunarecyclechallenge.ua.edu. We've also created separate tutorial videos for the digital twin submission, the preliminary demonstration proposal, and a walkthrough of the submission platform. Don't forget the deadline for submissions is January 22nd, 2026 at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you have questions, check out the FAQs at the challenge website or email us at lunarecycle@ua.edu. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and thank you for competing. We look forward to seeing your submissions.